The morning sun spilled across the glass walls of the Riverside Market Café when everything went wrong for Adrian Voss, one of the wealthiest men in the city, yet in that moment he felt smaller than the dust on the floor. He had arrived in an unassuming grey hoodie, trying to escape the noise of executives and meetings, hoping to blend in for once. When he tapped his platinum card to pay for a simple breakfast, the impossible happened. The machine beeped sharply, flashing Dickie Lund. The cashier tried again, and again, the same cold rejection echoed back. Conversations around him softened. Heads turned, whispers stirred. Adrian felt heat crawl up his neck as the world's eyes, for once, didn't see a billionaire. They saw a man who couldn't afford his meal. If you believe kindness and second chances still matter, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Touch of Kindness. It helps us reach more hearts like yours. Adrian stood frozen, stunned. It wasn't about the money. He had teams managing his accounts, properties across oceans, investments that ran themselves. But in that moment, when he needed even a shred of dignity, nothing worked. The cashier glanced at the growing line behind him, sighed impatiently. A teenager snickered, and Adrian, who once bought companies worth millions in an afternoon, suddenly felt painfully, embarrassingly helpless. Then, before anyone else could add to his humiliation, a small voice spoke from behind him. I can pay for him." Adrian turned and saw a little girl, maybe 8 or 9, wearing a faded yellow dress and sandals that had clearly lasted longer than they were meant to. Her dark hair was tied up in a slightly messy ponytail. In her hand she held a few wrinkled bills and some coins she must have counted more than once. Behind her stood an older woman, possibly her grandmother, with a worried expression, but the girl didn't hesitate. She stepped forward, tiny but brave, and placed her money on the counter. The cafe fell silent. Adrian was speechless. "Would you do that?" he managed to whisper. The girl shrugged softly. "You look like you're having a bad day. Sometimes people just need help." Her voice was simple. It struck something deep inside him, something he hadn't felt in years. Gratitude, humility, humanity. The cashier accepted the payment, and the machine chimed approval. Adrian didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or hide. He'd spent years surrounded by luxury, yet it took a child with nearly nothing to remind him of the kindness he had forgotten to look for. Outside the cafe, Adrian followed the girl and her grandmother to thank them properly. He learned her name was Mara, and the woman with her was her grandmother, Noreen. They lived in a small rented room nearby, struggling ever since Mara's mother passed away. Mara earned a few coins by selling handmade bracelets at the park, small colorful pieces she carried inside a box padded with old cloth. What little money she had, she offered without thinking twice. Adrian felt a heaviness in his chest as he listened. Morning he had been frustrated by meaningless business calls and technical glitches. Meanwhile, this little girl had faced real problems, hunger, loss, uncertainty, still offered kindness so freely. He knelt down to Mara's height. "I want to buy a bracelet," he told her, voice steady but emotional. She brightened instantly and opened her box, revealing rows of vibrant, uneven, lovingly made pieces. Adrian chose a blue and white one, simple, imperfect, and more meaningful than anything he'd owned in years. He tried to pay her more than the bracelet was worth. She shook her head firmly. "No, just the price." "Kindness shouldn't be paid for," she said. Stunned him more than the card decline had. Overwhelmed, Adrian made a quiet decision. He invited Mara and Noreen to lunch. Over that meal he learned more about their lives, the lost job, the medical bills, the constant fear of eviction. Noreen apologized for burdening him with their story. Adrian shook his head. "You helped me when no one else did. Let me return the kindness." In the weeks that followed, Adrian didn't just help them, he transformed their lives, arranged stable housing for them, funded Mara's education, and set up a small stall for her bracelets, turning her talent into a real business. Whenever Mara asked why he was doing so much, Adrian would smile softly. "Because you reminded me of the kind of person I should have been all along." If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, and subscribe to Touch of Kindness. Your support helps us share more real stories that restore faith in humanity.